Hey, what's going on out there? I would like to welcome every single one of you over to Water Your Soil. So if you're new around here, I have two rules over at this channel. The first rule is for you to always use your own discretion when it comes to credit cards and credit scores. The second rule, that's for you to verify everything that you learn, whether it's here on this channel, another channel, or anywhere. That should be a rule of life. So getting into this video, we're going to talk about something that is basically destroying millions of FICO credit scores and credit scores in general. And it's something that needs to be touched on because I've been seeing countless amounts of posts and videos in regard to people's credit scores just hitting rock bottom. And it's not just due to student loans, because I know that's been the big talk lately. Credit scores have been taking a dive lately due to student loans and people not realizing that their student loan repayments started back up, so they were late and they weren't current, and as a result you had credit scores dropping 100 points, 200 points. I even saw someone, their score dropped like 260 points. So a lot of people were affected by the student loan issue. However, there are still people who are affected in general when it comes to credit scores, not just necessarily from student loans, but it could be any of their accounts, whether it's auto loans, home loans, personal loans, and of course, the big one, credit cards. So we're going to touch on that in this video. We're going to touch on why so many credit scores have been dropping lately. And even when it comes to things such as the average credit score, and I don't really like to do averages, but the average credit score hasn't risen this past year or so. And there's a reason for that. And we're going to talk about it in this video. When it comes to FICO credit scores, there's two things that you want to mainly focus on. Of course, there are 5 categories, and we're going to touch on that. But there are 2 categories that you want to mainly focus on. 35% of your score relates to whether you're paying on time or not. And a lot of people get this wrong, and it's unfortunate because I'm like, how can you get this part wrong when these days they allow you to make a minimum payment? Now, of course, that's in regard to credit cards. If you have a mortgage or an auto loan or a personal loan, you have to pay whatever they say your monthly pay is. So that's understandable when it comes to that. However, when it comes to something like a credit card, you have the minimum payment, which I don't recommend. I always recommend people to pay their full statement balance. And you also have auto pay. Just about every credit card has an auto pay option where you could set up and they'll take out automatic payments in order for you to never be late with your payments on your credit card. And you can decide whether you want to pay the current balance, the minimum balance, or the statement balance. So you have that option, and that goes to 35% of a credit score. And it's unfortunate because I see so many people fail with this category, which is the 35% and paying on time. This is a category that you should not be failing in. Everyone should be able to pay on time. Know that right now people are tight for money. However, especially when we're talking about credit cards, you need to be able to make your payments on time and not be late. That's 35% of your score. Another 30% of your credit score relates to your accounts and how well you are managing them. And what I mean by managing them is whether you're paying down the debt that you have, especially if you have credit cards. Are you watching your utilization? Credit card utilization is so big, and I talk about it often on this channel. There are debates. There are always going to be debates. Now, I make videos for people who are attempting to either rebuild their credit score or build their credit score up. And I'm not going to tell them that they shouldn't worry about credit card utilization, because credit card utilization is so important, especially for someone who's attempting to build their score up. Now, I always tell people to keep their credit card utilization at 10% or less. That's a good zone for someone who is attempting to manage their credit score. Now, there are all different types of ways and different type of tricks that people can do. Some people, they go ahead and they pay off whatever they spend immediately. Some people do it once a week. Some people do it twice a week. I wait till I receive my full statement balance in full, and then I pay before my due date. And I always make sure that I keep my overall utilization for that card for the month under 10%. And that's just how I do it. The cool thing about this credit score thing is that everyone has a way to do it. And if it's a legit way and it works and it follows the principles to increasing your credit score, then do what works for you. I tell people what works for me and countless amounts of others throughout the years. So that's what I like to do. But to get back to what I was saying, 65%, the 35 for paying on time, and a 30 for managing your accounts and your debt correctly. That's 65% of your credit score, which is majority of your credit score. Now, of course, there's another 35%, but I always like to get people to focus on that 65% because if your score took a big dive and it decreased by a lot, chances are one of those two categories or both of those categories in regard to the 65% paying on time, making sure that you are managing your accounts correctly and paying down your debt, watching your utilization, one of those categories or both more than likely is the cause of your big credit score decrease. Because when it comes to the other categories, you have your credit age, meaning how long your accounts have been open, which is why I'm a big fan of not closing out credit cards completely. Also, you have whether or not you're applying for new accounts, which is your hard inquiries, which is why I tell people to keep your inquiries down. Because if you go and you just apply for accounts, a card here and an auto loan here and a mortgage here and a personal loan here and another credit card and another, you're just piling up those hard inquiries. And what that tells FICO is that you're desperate for money. So they'll view you as more riskier. So you don't want to come off more riskier to them. And also the last category is the types of accounts. Whether you have a mixture. FICO loves credit mixtures. And basically a mixture is whether you have a mortgage with credit cards or an auto loan with credit cards or a personal loan with credit cards or a personal loan with mortgage. It loves mixtures. And that factors into 100% of your score. Those 5 things: paying on time, managing your accounts correctly, which goes into your utilization, paying down your debt, your credit age, how long your accounts have been open and active, your hard inquiries, whether or not you're applying for new accounts or not, and last but not least, the credit mixture. And the cool thing about these 5 categories is usually when you get them right, you'll see that with your credit score. I always tell people your credit score is a big indicator of how well you are managing your credit report, because it all comes down to your credit report. Because a lot of people are so fixated on their credit score and that's all they think about, which is why so many people are big on just disputing things. And I'm like, hold on, do you know that these lenders and these credit card companies, they still look at your credit report? They still want to see the activity on your credit report. So you may be trying to do all of these quick fixes in order to increase your credit score. However, they're still going to look at your credit report. So you want to make sure that you are managing your credit report correctly, because your credit score is just an indicator of what's going on with your credit report. When people come to me and they say, hey, my score dropped, I always say, well, hey, what's going on with your credit report? And 9 times out of 10, they usually don't have an updated version of their credit report. And they're just concerned with their score. And you got to do the homework. You got to know what's on your credit report, your trouble areas. You need to be able to point out your trouble areas. More than likely, you already know what your trouble areas is, whether it's paying down your student loan debt or paying down your credit card debt that you have because you've been carrying balances, or paying your auto loan on time. Or it could be something like you need to stop applying for things. It could be whatever, but you more than likely know what your issue is without looking at your credit report. However, your credit report will help you zoom in on what the issues is, because they're going to stand out to you. And I always tell people this because what this comes down to, the 5 categories have been there. They've been there for years. People want to ignore them. They want to take the easy route. They want to go and look for dispute letters to send out. They want to do all of these things, but it basically comes down to you creating new habits. You have to create better habits. You have to change the way you look at owing people. That's what this comes down to, because basically this whole thing is about how well you are managing your accounts and your debt. So you want to make sure you change the way you look at paying people back when you owe them. And I know that's hard for some of you, but you have to change your mentality and the way you think, because if you want to have a good credit score and you want to be able to have it last, and you want to be able to help your relatives and your friends and educate them on credit scores, you need to know how this thing works. And the only way you're really going to know how it works is trial and error. I can give you all of the information that you want. However, you have to be willing to apply the information that you take in. And a great deal of that is changing the way you think. And I had to go through it. I went from the 500s to the 800s. There are countless amounts of other people, whether they're on here in the comment section or wherever it may be, and they had to go through it as well. It's not always a quick, easy fix like a lot of you think. A lot of you are probably watching this video right now because your credit score decreased because of student loans. But for a lot of you, outside of your student loans, you more than likely have problems with managing credit cards as well. So you want to make sure that you do get these things together. It's not rocket science. Credit scores are not rocket science. However, we tend to complicate it as humans, and changing the way you think and the way you view this whole thing plays a big role in it. But anyways, while you're here, I want you to participate in my latest poll. It's currently active right now on this channel. So the way you participate in my latest poll is you click on my profile picture. It's going to take you to the home page of this channel. Once you're on the home page, you're going to go to the section that says post. You're going to click on that section. You're going to see my latest poll as well as my previous polls. Be sure to participate in all of them. Also, if you're new here and you're feeling the vibe, this is Water Your Soil. Be sure to hit the subscribe button, turn on all notifications. That way you don't miss a future video because I post often. That's clicking on that bell that you see and selecting all. Also, this goes to every single one of you, my subscribers included. Be sure to hit the like button. It literally takes 1 second. It lets the algorithm know you appreciate this video and you support this video as well as this channel. I appreciate every single one of you for stopping by, showing love, leaving a comment, sharing my videos. This is Water Your Soil, and I'm out. Hey, what's going on? This is Nell from Water Your Soil. So as someone who went from a 549 credit score all the way up to the 800s, I decided to share the same information that helped me go from poor credit to excellent credit. This book is titled Strategies to Master Credit. I put everything in this book, everything that helped me go from poor credit to excellent credit. All of the information is in this book. So I want you all to purchase this book. A lot of you have already purchased it, but it's available currently right now on Amazon.com and also MasterCreditBook.com. It's titled Strategies to Master Credit. You want this book. It has all the information needed in order for you to go from poor credit to excellent credit, or just simply maintain your good or excellent credit score. So get the book ASAP. And if you want something more in depth, you could take the course over at www.wateryoursoil.com. It's more in depth. There are actually chapters in this course, and it walks you through basically how FICO credit scores come about and how they're determined. And really, once you learn how FICO scores come about and the concept of credit scores, then you're pretty much on your way to either going from poor credit to good credit, or just maintaining a good or excellent credit score. So if you want something more in depth, I have the course over at www.wateryoursoil.com. All right.